It's a bit like being a drug addict. You've got to have your sponsor. You've got to have one or two people that will take your call and know that you're crazy and know your type of crazy and know what a pickle you get yourself into.
Jamie Catto, workshop facilitator, musician, founding member of Faithless.
Old pal, let's say that. That's the important thing.
We are joined by my old pal Jamie Catto. Your teachings have helped hundreds of thousands of people at this point. You run workshops on panic attacks, and you've had a lot of panic attacks in your time and struggled through anxiety. And you've alchemized that now to be able to be something that you help people with. When we are dating and struggling with the anxiety of not hearing back from them, how would you recommend that we cope if we're dealing with anxiety from that?
So I do think it's very good if you're at all woke to talk about something that maybe your listeners have already heard about, which is called attachment theory. One of the categories is anxiously attached, which is, when you're not texting me, where are you? Always wanting more, or, always needing a lot of reassurance and feeling insecure. And then the opposite of that is what they call avoidant, which are the people who go, give me space, and both of them are different ways to be afraid of intimacy and the risks, whether you're going to be engulfed, whether you're going to let the other one down if they put too much, that's the avoidant thing, that I don't want to have too much power over your life. I don't want you relying on me. I don't want to be responsible for that. I need my space. Or the anxious one is, where have you gone? Why don't you want to hang out with me more? Surely we're the likes of that. And those two often come together. They're like, the more avoidant someone is, the more they will bring out the anxious attachment in the other. Or the more anxious and clingy this person is, the more avoidant the other one will get. And a lot of couples get like that. And then there's another thing called securely attached. I haven't met anyone yet who's securely attached, but apparently there are some people who had perfectly balanced childhoods and they're cool. You can, when you meet someone and you're really honest with each other about your attachment styles, and it's never fixed. Like, I can be in a relationship, be anxiously attached, but then I can be in another relationship, and if they're extra clingy, I can go into more avoid. Everyone's got everything. But to have those conversations can cultivate and foster both of you moving towards secure attachment. If you say what your needs are really clearly, say, listen, I don't need you to call me every second of the day, but here's what I do need: a quick chat before bedtime. Or I do need, if you're going out with your mates, could you let me know that you're going to be home later than midnight? Or could you, certain people just have different little check-in needs. Or the avoidant one might be just, listen, I want to be able to go out with my friends and I don't want to have to be thinking about, are you okay? So could we have a lovely kiss, cuddle down? And just trust me, everything's going to be lovely and I'll be in touch 10 tomorrow morning. But you give a time when you will next be in touch. So the other anxious person can just chill till that time and they know it's okay. There's all kinds of different techniques, but the more you talk about your wounds and your kind of tendencies to get jumpy, the more you can look after each other. Because this whole idea that I'm a mountain, you're a mountain, I'll deal with my stuff, you deal with your stuff, is bullshit. It's been scientifically proved that two people that are having sex with each other and involved, they do regulate each other's nervous systems. Once we are involved and we're seeing each other regularly, we have like become attached, you have a big effect on the other person and you have a huge effect on each other. So be compassionate about that and work out a container that you can both live with, work out some agreements so that everyone's expectations are managed.
Okay, so speaking to that, let's say you've had 4 dates with somebody and you've been intimate. You feel like it's too soon to be a needy weirdo, but you're also feeling anxiously attached now because you don't know where you're at with this person, they don't know where they're at, and you've not heard from them. How do we learn to cope with some of the anxieties that come up in that space, the
Okay, so
gray area?
yeah, so let's look at things which aren't involving the other person, things you can do that don't involve texting them, involving them, bringing them in, or things you can do. Most important thing is learning how to soothe and regulate your nervous system. Don't bother going into any kind of relationship if you don't know yet how to look after your own, jumpiness. You need to learn how to breathe. You need to learn how to rub your heart. Just rub your heart and go, oh, you're right. It's all right. I'm here. Because the thing is, no matter who comes and goes, you say to yourself, hey, because you're talking to the little child inside who's scared and going through the sort of abandonment flashback of their childhoods or whatever. Everyone has it. So you just rub your heart going, all right, and there, listen, I'm never going anywhere. No matter who comes and goes, I'm always going to be here. There's nowhere I would rather be than right here with you right now.
That's the cutest.
And it's true. Because you are your mummy and daddy now, emotionally. The
Yeah.
buck stops with you. You are responsible for your reactions. You can ask someone else to help. You can say, hey, could you call me by midnight? But you can't dictate and demand that everyone's always going to fit in with your exact sensitivities. Just can't. You've got to, at the bottom line,
Mm.
you've got to take you've got to be the last line of defense. So you've got to know how to soothe your nervous system, rub your heart, breathe properly, and do things which support feeling grounded, walking in nature, dancing, rubbing your feet, getting
Even
into water.
a Spotify playlist, but to reflect your emotions.
Certain music. Yes, certain comfort blanket things you like on Netflix, like one of those crappy
Emily
things
in
that you can
Paris.
lose yourself in whatever you love to binge. Also, friendship, have this great woman, Jem Ayres, this great relationship and sex coach. She said, the first thing I ask you if you're getting into a relationship is who's your team?
Mm.
Because your partner isn't always going to be there. And even if they're there, they may not always be willing. And nor should they. You can't insist that someone is willing to look after you or give you what you want. I mean, hopefully, if it continues that they're just always not willing, then it's not a fit, the relationship. But they can't always be willing. So, like, you've got to have your go-to team. It's a bit like being a drug addict. You've got to have your sponsor. You've got to have one or two people that will take your call and know that you're crazy and know your type of crazy and know what a pickle you get yourself into and can talk you down off the ledge and be with you and breathe with you. And, you need to have a team and some available humans that aren't your lover.
You are safer than your body's chemistry is telling you.
Yeah, it's very convincing. When your body starts firing off adrenaline and cortisol, it starts getting the cortexes all mixed up and starts making you think you're really in danger when you're not. You're having a Vietnam flashback. So you need to know that. You need to tell the system, you need to say, hey, I know it feels like I'm in danger and every one of my senses is telling me I'm in danger, but I'm not. There's a great book called CPTSD by Pete Walker, which means complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And what that is these kinds of flashbacks we go into, these traumas, aren't necessarily about one big incident that happened to us, like a bomb dropped and then you've got PTSD, or you got assaulted, or you've got PTSD. Complex PTSD is when you had a series of difficult experiences, like your parents always used to look at you coldly when you didn't do what they wanted, or you used to always get bullied at school, or it wasn't like one thing, it was like a series of being treated a certain way throughout your childhood. And that is a different kind of PTSD. And he's got a page in the middle of that book of all the ways that you can bring yourself down to earth when you're having a CPTSD flashback. And that's when you're getting anxious about your dating thing or your partner, that is a CPTSD flashback. And I've seen like dogs, when their owners go out, it almost, when you see what a dog does when their owner goes out, you'd think you should never own a dog ever again. If you see what the poor dogs go through.
As a dog owner, I filmed my dog in the beginning. We've been living in my flat for a couple of days, and I went out and I left my camera on, and he was whining and crying. And when I watched it back, it was so sad. He was just waiting for me all this time because now he's comfortable with me. He knows I'm always going to come back. He knows he's loved and he's got a few different homes. Like he doesn't have any, he's not anxiously attached at all. I'll leave for hours and he can just sleep, which is amazing. And I think
Okay.
that can reflect our dating life. If we get to a point of commitment or of feeling like we're held in a relationship, that anxiety will be less.
Yeah, once you have practiced those things and you get used to it, of course, it's much, much less. You've got your protocols, you've got your container, you've managed your expectations. And that's the funny thing about anxiously attached people, is they don't need much. They're camels. You can go through the desert on one glass of water, as long as you know the timings. Like if you tell me we're not going to be in touch until tomorrow evening, I'm fine. As long as I know that tomorrow evening is a fixed time, I'll be absolutely fine until now. I'll go get on with other shit. So it's really interesting that anxiously attached people are not as anxious as they look. They just need certain kind of posts.
Yeah, posts. I like that.